Dragtrode was one of the major forces to be reckoned with in the 2005 format. As the name implies, it centered around Dark Dragonite and Dark Electrode. Throughout the season, it went through various changes that we'll talk about later in the video, but first we'll focus on the key players for this deck, starting with Electrode. A 70 HP stage 1 with a weakness to fighting, which would become relevant once Emerald dropped and Metacham EX was added into the metagame. But we don't really mind Dark Electrode being that fragile because we're actually really wanting it for its Poke Power and its attack. Let's start with Darkness Navigation. Once during your turn, if Dark Electrode has no energy attached to it, you can search your deck for a Darkness energy or a Dark Metal energy and attach it to Dark Electrode. That doesn't exactly power it up the way we would like for Energy Bomb, which requires a Lightning energy, but it does get Darkness energy into play straight from the deck, which is what we're looking for. Energy Bomb is going to be more of a backup attack if you just want to get Dark Electrode into the active position and hit for electric weakness. Once you've accelerated the Darkness energy into play with Dark Electrode, Dark Dragonite's going to come in to add another step to the combo. Another Pokemon that has an amazing Poke Power with a lot of synergy that you don't necessarily want to be attacking with, even though it does have some very relevant resistances. Dark Dragonite's Dark Trance Power lets you move Darkness energies across all of your Pokemon as often as you like on your turn. Think back to base set Venusaur's Energy Trance Power, which makes me think that this Poke Power was actually just kind of an alternate translation to where it could have been Dark Trans or Dark Trance, and they just went with Trance because it seemed cooler. But you can already see where we're going with this deck. Electrode's going to get Darkness energies into play straight from the deck. Dark Dragonite's going to be able to move them around and place them on whatever Pokemon you want to be attacking. And in doing so, you're going to be able to pump up the damage of some of these attacks. Dark Dragonite's Claw Swipe attack only has 50 damage on it for 3 colorless energy, but if you are filling those colorless energies with Darkness energies, it's going to add 10 damage per, thanks to Dark Dragonite's Dark typing. And that's exactly what early builds of Dragtrode focused on, just getting those energy into play, moving them over to Dark Dragonite as your main attacker, and just hitting for Claw Swipe over and over again, overwhelming your opponent. These builds had an ideal start with Dunsparce. Its strike and run attack is going to let you fill your bench with Voltorbs and Dratinis, while Pidgeot would let you grab all the other resources you needed from your deck with Quick Search. You could bypass a lot of cards like Celio's Network in the deck because Dark Dragonaire's Evolutionary Light could search out an evolution card for you as long as Dark Dragonair was in the active position. And I don't want to hear from all you going, oh, well the other Dark Dragonair from Team Rocket is better than this one. What about Power Creep? Shut up. It's a solid power that really helps out the deck, really helps you thin your deck. One of the reasons this deck is so powerful is because you're pulling resources straight from your deck so often that when you do use some draw power, you're drawing into everything else you need because you've already thinned the deck so much. So the original Dragtrode setup isn't bad. Once you get your Electrode and your Dragonite set up, it's very energy efficient, it's easy to deal damage, Dragonite's tanky enough that you can do it multiple turns, but the setup can be a little slow because you're needing to attack with Dunsparce, and then you're also needing to get a Pidgeot into play, which is gonna use a rare candy, most likely. And then once you get attacking with the Dark Dragonite, even at its highest damage output, it's still not keeping up with the rest of the format. And so what do players do? Well, they try to cut all the fat off of the deck. What can make it more streamlined? What gets you to your final engine faster? And do we have some better Dark type attackers so that we're not having to lock into Dark Dragonite as just kind of a mediocre damage output source? So let's just cut all of the Dunsparce from the deck and instead go all in on Lynette's Net Search, which is a supporter that lets you search your deck for up to 3 different types of basic Pokemon cards and put them into your hand. Then from there, you can choose which ones go to the bench, which ones stay in your hand. Yes, you are limited to getting 3 different types, but that's pretty easy in this deck. Go grab a Dratini, go grab a Voltorb, and then the third one is going to be an EX because this deck does not limit the type of basic Pokemon you can get. You can go get a Rollbox Pokemon. On top of Net Search, we also have Dual Ball and Rocket Ball that are going to help you get pretty much any Pokemon you need from your deck, with Dark Dragonair grabbing those evolution cards straight from your deck as well. With so many search options going on in this deck, A lot of players realize that you don't even need the Pidgeot. You're pulling directly from the deck so often that all you have to do is play one Copycat or one Steven's Advice, and you're going to be able to draw into anything else you need. So let's cut the bird, go heavier on search, and lean more into hitting hard and hitting fast, leaning more into Dark Dragonite as a support Pokemon, which is its real strength, and moving away from it as an attacking Pokemon, and instead using Rocket's Sneasel EX, a much better Dark type attacker. It's a 90 HP basic Pokemon. You can start the game with this thing. Only needs 1 energy to start attacking, so you can actually get it moving pretty early game before you even have the rest of your setup. It does have a fighting weakness, so when that does come up, then you can pivot back to Dark Dragonite as your main attacker because it resists fighting type, so there is some coverage there. On the flip side, the Psychic resistance is pretty nice, though by the time we get to the World Championships, you don't see a whole lot of Psychic Pokemon popping up. A 1 energy gusting effect is always going to be good, especially when you can deal some extra damage on top of that. If you have a special darkness energy attached, you're going to be dealing 20 either to the active Pokemon or to the newly gusted Pokemon. A great way to ruin some early setups as long as you can get a darkness energy of some sort early enough in game where you can actually use this on your first turn attacking, which in this metagame is a lot easier than you may think. We'll talk more about that when we get to the energy base. Hopefully you can get your Electrodes and your Dragonite set up very quickly. That way you can get the correct amount of darkness energies onto Sneasel EX, Rocket Sneasel EX, to use Dark Ring, which has 30 base power for 3 energy. Doesn't seem like a lot, but you're also dealing 10 more damage for each of your dark Pokemon in play. So all of those Electrodes, Dragonairs, Dragonites, other Sneasels, they're going to add onto this damage calculation just by existing on the field. And then you also have to calculate in all of the extra damage you're going to be dealing from special darkness energies. And you've got yourself a very hard-hitting attack with a simplified, efficient setup thanks to all of the search cards included in the new build of Dragtrode. This deck really relegated its main focus on Dark Dragonite and Dark Electrode to just the engine and evolved into more of a Rocket Sneasel EX powerhouse deck. You've probably already noticed that this deck requires a lot of darkness energy, and darkness was still a special energy type. It had not yet become a basic energy type, but that's okay because the Team Rocket Return set has us covered on easily fulfilling those darkness energy attack costs. Aside from the special darkness energy that we're all used to and a few copies of rainbow energy, we're also going to be running a full playset of dark metal energy. As the name implies, it provides either darkness or metal energy. Very importantly, you can grab these with Electrode to get them into play faster. Then we've also got the insane card R Energy, a favorite of Pirate Captains. That is just a double darkness energy. This one card provides 2 darkness energy and still gives you the plus 10 boost to your attacks if it's attached to a Rockets or Dark Pokemon. It isn't searchable with Dark Electrode, so you do have to rely on your draw power in order to get this into hand, but that is pretty easy. And on top of all of the energy synergies that this deck has to get energy into play quickly and pull off some massive attacks, dead dropping this R energy can be a game turner. You do have to discard R energy at the end of your turn after you attach it, but a lot of the time, actually the majority of the time, dropping an R energy onto a Sneasel just means that you get a knockout that turn, so it is a very fair trade. If you're playing Dragtrode in a very meta environment, then Rocket Scyther EX is a nice tech for this deck as a 1-of or a 2-of. As long as it has a rainbow energy attached to it to provide a grass energy, then Rocket Scyther EX also counts as a grass type, allowing it to hit for grass weakness. 2 of the most popular rogue decks in the format are weak to grass, but that's not the reason we're including Rocket Scyther EX. The biggest boogeymen in the 2005 format are both weak to grass. We got the Dark Tyranitar from the Rocklock decks and Nidoqueen from the Queendom deck. And in case you didn't know, these 2 cards are part of the 2 best decks of 2005. Single prize Stage 2 Pokemon that could absolutely lay the smackdown on EXs. You'll be hearing a lot more about these 2 cards as we continue on in this series, but the main thing we want to focus on today is that grass weakness, because the joke at the time was that having a grass weakness in 2005 was like having no weakness, because there weren't any good, usable grass-type Pokemon, there weren't any competitive grass-type decks. And that is a major contributing factor to why Dark Tyranitar and Nidoqueen were both at the top of the metagame. There just weren't good checks for them. And I'm not saying that Rocket Scyther EX is just a Nidoqueen killer. No, it's, like I said, it's just a check so that you can actually stack some solid damage onto a Nidoqueen, set it up for a future knockout. Or with the right setup, you can drop Rocket Scyther EX into play, use your Dragtrode engine to power it up quickly, and try to sweep against Queendom or Rocklock. Here's a sample deck list for those of you looking to build this deck, and if you do build this deck and play around with it, be sure to let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. What inclusions or exclusions fit your playstyle better, that way it's a little more informative for other people looking to build this deck that can read down in the comments and learn from your experiences. We're really starting to get into the more competitive side of the 2005 season, so I look forward to uploading even more deck lists for you in the future. Let me know what you're excited to see. If you want to help the channel, click all the right YouTube buttons to help my algorithm out. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you at the next one.